All right, good folks, we're back here for another episode of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast because it's Thursday. It's what we do. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the road into Elimination Chamber, but more importantly, what does that road out of Elimination Chamber look like? And there has been rumors swirling around with CM Punk, and is this a good or bad thing for what may be timely for an AEW star to kind of step up? We're going to be recapping a lot of the things we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. All that and more tonight on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Let's get started, folks.
Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really need that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt.
And we are back yet live for another episode of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, coming to you live each and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on all of our social medias if you want to catch that video content. But if not, the next day, cool. We got you on all audio podcast platforms, all of them the following day. It is your host, Nigeria, alongside of Jamal and Will. They're also the host, too. So it's all three of us here to talk what we do each and every week. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. It's a little bit of going on this weekend, I understand.
A little bit of something, right?
Montreal is going to be having a lot going on in the next 48 hours. And I guess some other places, too, because it's a holiday weekend kind of, sort of, with President's Day. And it seems like there is a lot of wrestling all over the place happening this weekend. I
won't even lie. This holiday kind of snuck up on me. I wasn't even aware we were going to be having a holiday, a means of not having to go to work this Monday. But yeah, you know, who couldn't use a day off? I sure say can. But yeah, folks, we're live each and every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is February 16th. Hopefully you all had an amazing Valentine's Day weekend and was filled with love, or maybe you just chilled and just did your own thing. Who knows? But either way, hopefully you had a good weekend. Thank you for everybody joining us tonight live. As I mentioned, catch the video stream live on all of our social media, which includes Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter live. All right. So as you mentioned, a lot of things going on this weekend. Yeah, we're talking about Elimination Chamber. However, we are talking about Montreal, which we have a SmackDown, and then we have a pay-per-view. And I mean, you know, when you talk about fight cities and whatnot, yeah, we have New York, we have Vegas, but I think Montreal definitely is a city that's reputable for the same identity that we sort of slap Vegas and New York with. Like, when you say an event's happening in Montreal, you sort of get a feel that it's a big deal. But beyond that, whether you think that or not, it is sort of a big deal as WWE is getting ready to have one of their major pay-per-views, especially in terms of gimmick pay-per-views with the Elimination Chamber, which will feature the main event of Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. What's the big deal here? Well, one, Sami Zayn is nuclear hot right now in terms of being a babyface, and Roman Reigns is doing the best in the business in terms of being a heel. And if that wasn't good enough, Sami Zayn is he actually from Montreal, Quebec, Canada?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So he's at his hometown, and with that, because I know someone think because he's a Canadian, that means he's from that area. But yeah, he comes back to his hometown with one of the biggest matches of his career, and a storyline that's being built as you breaking up my family versus I'm going to destroy you in front of yours. And then there's a lot of uncertainty here as to what's going to happen in this pay-per-view. And we've talked about it, you know, in the previous weeks, as I mentioned. But I think what's the focus of this conversation tonight is now that it's here, now that all the things that we had, especially what happened on Raw this following weekend, the question is not only what should happen, but in terms of that night, but what needs to happen coming out of that night going forward. So granted, whether there's a win or loss, whatever it may be, there still needs to be a tone that is set coming out of it. And all things Elimination Chamber, because this is not the only match that's happening, but obviously this is the big storyline in all of professional wrestling. And I did enough talking. So Will, giving it to you, what's your thoughts about Elimination Chamber, and even throwing SmackDown in there coming this week?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a 1-2 punch. We got SmackDown tomorrow night. We got Elimination Chamber on Saturday, back-to-back from Montreal. This is going to be a hell of a damn 2 shows, I think. We were just coming off Royal Rumble, which, is always considered one of the biggest shows of the year. In a lot of ways, I think this is going to be just as nuts of a weekend because, like we said, they have the special environment this time around. We got Sami Zayn in his hometown, on his home turf, going against Roman Reigns. And they're already leaning into it. Like you said, Roman's going to beat him up in front of his family, he's claiming. So they're making it personal. It's going to be as much as it's a title match, it's also a grudge match. I think it's going to be really damn interesting this weekend, how they play this out, the emotions they are going to play on, because hell, we saw a lot of emotions at the end of the Royal Rumble between Jey Uso, between Sami Zayn, and everything with the bloodline starting to crumble. And all that stuff is still raw. All that stuff is still new. And just as much as we didn't know at the Royal Rumble where people stand, we still don't know now, really. And I think a lot of that's going to get settled this weekend, or at least we're going to get enough light to know, all right, this is where the pieces are as we start heading towards WrestleMania. But my God, I mean, hell, it might also be a kind of celebration because as we stand here today, right now, we are at 900 days today of Roman Reigns as champion. Today marks 900. So he's getting close to that magical 1,000 number. The only way that happens is he's got to get through this weekend and through WrestleMania. So there's a lot in play. And like I said, we haven't even touched the rest of the card. We got to talk about the women's chamber that's going on and all other stuff. There's other stuff like that. But let's get Sammy and Roman and all that out of the way first, because that's the biggest piece of the pie for sure. Crab, get in here with some thoughts on things.
Well, I think the most interesting part of Elimination Chamber is that the biggest match isn't the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah,
and they're doing
absolutely 2
of them. I would have liked to have seen the Elimination Chamber itself factor into this bloodline story, somehow, some way. That's not what they're going to do. And unfortunately, it definitely seems like this is just a, looking forward to WrestleMania. I really hope that Sammy's involved in WrestleMania in some capacity, but it really doesn't look like that's, the smart money's on that. And it's, it's kind of like, I guess. But it will be interesting to see what happens there. As far as the other matches, there's only 5 matches on the card, which is also interesting too. I wonder how long this pay-per-view is going to go. I wonder, obviously not compared it to the Royal Rumble, which features 2 like 90-minute long segments anyway, which is a different problem. But I wonder, will this pay-per-view be under 3 hours? So it'll be, and also, and then of course there's the elephant in the room. It is in Montreal at the Bell Center. Will the hometown heroes of Sami Zayn from Laval, Quebec, Canada, and Kevin Owens from Marieville, suburbs of Montreal, how will they factor in? Will WWE actually send the crowd home happy, knowing damn well that, in a month later, we got WrestleMania around the corner? It is an interesting prospect, but I do think that, unfortunately, it doesn't look good for Sami Zayn the way this thing has been building, because the elephant in the room is named Cody Rhodes. So, and of course, Cody really doesn't have his fingerprints on this pay-per-view yet because they can't be seen near each other. We talked about this last week. Cody, it is what it is. I think, and we just have to wait and see what happens. But I really am interested to see how they manage both aspects of it. You have arguably the hottest babyface in a long time versus one of the biggest heels in a long time. in the babyface's hometown of the pay-per-view before WrestleMania.
Yeah.
They couldn't have drawn it up better if they tried.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors here. One, let's go to Raw real quick, where we did have the moment that no one thought would be the moment, where Sami Zayn does show up on Raw to have a moment with Cody Rhodes. I will to give it to you here. What was sort of your thought about them booking this to happen, and your reaction to after this segment happened?
Well, as we had been talking about, and as Jabal just mentioned, when they had him show up, I was like, oh no, what the hell are they doing here? I was like, they are playing with fire, putting these two together, especially before the pay-per-view. That's the thing, before the title match. That's what threw me off. If they weren't doing it after, it's like, what the hell is he doing here? Why is he calling out Cody Rhodes before he even has the title match? How does this figure in? And that's where it got weird, because essentially what it turned into was Sami Zayn needed a pep talk from Cody Rhodes, which is just a weird dynamic in my mind. And that just threw me off as far as like, okay, you have him come out here and they kind of have a mutual admiration thing going on, but then it turns into, I don't think I can beat him. I need you to tell me you think I can. Like, I need to believe in myself. Help me out here, Cody. And it's just like, huh?
Excuse me, Will. Let me help you out here, because you're my brother here. But I just gotta let you know, because it ain't Titus O'Neil, it ain't Shelton Benjamin, it ain't Mia Yim, it ain't Cedric Alexander. It is Cody Christ that has to do the Black History Month prep talk this month. So understood that Cody was exactly where he needed to be. Yes, the segment was weird, but we all know what Cody had done with the birth of his child. He ended all racism, and this is exactly right to be in the moment. But honestly, all jokes aside, this is true fashion Cody Rhodes. I think there may be a level of respect to Cody and him having a part in terms of where this story should go. These pep talks and these moments from Cody, you close your eyes and you just listen. You don't know what show you watching, because we've been hearing this from him from a long time. The Indies,
that's
to
true.
AEW, to now. It just makes sense that it had to just be at some point. Yeah, before the pay-per-view, super alarming, playing with fire. But hearing the live reports about this real quick, and I'll give it right back to you. Sammy got an incredible pop from what I'm hearing, but Cody got an incredibly long chant behind him. So the divide is not here. It is really, really odd that the WWE Universe has not picked sides, because they pick sides about everything. It's incredibly weird that they are completely rooting for the both of them in two different fashions that I don't think anybody even had on their bingo card. They're like, oh, they're going to celebrate them both, instead of it just being a divide here. So with that being said, and even what you were just saying, like, this fire that they're kind of playing with here, do you by all means think they try this again? Because Cody can give us bars each and every week.
Yeah, well, I would think after this weekend, the two of them will firmly be in different places and have different things going on, to where it won't be so much of an issue. It was just weird doing it before the pay-per-view, because right now the elephant in the room is, hey, I have the WrestleMania title shot, but you have the title shot this weekend, and how that factors in if he were to, if Sammy were to win in Montreal, how that changes the complexion of everything. In a lot of ways, it came across to me as like, yeah, Sammy needed a pep talk, but it was almost like he came to Raw looking for Cody's blessing. Of like, it's okay that I do. I'm taking this title shot before you, right? I know you won the Royal Rumble, but I got my own business with Roman Reigns. So, but hell, they pulled it off. The delivery was tremendous. It was a hell of a emotional promos from both of them, and people were eating it up. So, I mean, who am I to say? I mean, they are walking a very thin line. And right now, people love the both of them. And hell, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. We named the show it. They have a great problem right now. They have two red hot baby faces, and they have a red hot monster heel. Maybe that's part of it, that they have built Roman Reigns up so damn well over the last 900 days that people are just so, see him as such a monster now that they're like, Yeah, we do need two people. We do need two of these guys to be able to take him down. Maybe that's part of the thinking. I don't know, but
Could
people
be.
are cutting it up. So hey, it's working.
It's classic heroes and villains storytelling. Jamal, to you now, how do you book this? Like, let's get right down to it. How do you book this that night, and then what do you want to see happen Monday?
Well, I've said it before, and I say it again. I would make Cody the biggest heel in wrestling. Whether that's
Elimination Chamber. How do you book that night? Sammy versus Roman, and then what do you want to happen Monday?
Right. I would make Cody the biggest heel in wrestling. I would have him screw Sammy out of the win of the championship.
Okay.
In Montreal, and have because Sammy's not going to steal Cody's moment. It's not personal. It's just business, and that's the promo that he cuts on Raw. Because the matchup is WrestleMania versus at WrestleMania it is Roman versus Cody. That's the matchup. And of course, after the promo with Paul Heyman, after the the legacy, the lineage, and all that other stuff, the bloodline versus the royal family, and all that good stuff that you want to call it, Sami Zayn doesn't factor into that equation. He can't factor into that equation. This is bigger than one man's petty squabbles with the bloodline. This is about wrestling history, and Cody Rhodes is here to facilitate wrestling history. Whether you like it or not, the long and short of it is that Cody, by God, Rhodes has come back to the WWE to establish and reestablish the Rhodes name in the company.
Yeah.
And they're going to boo the bejesus out of him when he cuts that promo. Now, I know that's not a popular opinion because Cody said this, because wrestlers never lied before. And Cody said that because people don't know a work from a shoot. Cool. I'm just saying what I personally would do, because they have an opportunity, because Roman's got to go. He's got to go for months. He may not show back up until Survivor Series. Take the summer off. But they need a heel that's going to replace Roman at that magnitude. And to do that in Montreal. Now, I'm not calling on another Montreal screw job, but the bottom line is to do that in Montreal. For Cody to talk about legacy and the lineage and all this other stuff, it's not about anything else but that. He's justifiable in his actions, but it's not what the hearts of the fans want.
Yeah. There is a couple of things, and we're going to shift right after this. There's a couple of things that I think needs to be fulfilled in all of this. I 1,000% agree that it is time for Roman Reigns to have a break. But much like AJ Styles, if your top person of your faction is gone, what do you do with the other ones? Which to me says you also have to give the Usos a break, because it ain't going to work if Roman's not there, which also means that Paul's going to need a break. And Solo Sikoa is going to have a break. So you have an issue where everybody has to lose the title. You still got the tag title issue, which to me you need to address right now. I think what happens come this weekend is I think you have the complete flip of what happened with Kevin Owens. You have Roman Reigns completely beat down Sammy and have Kevin come out to save him. And you have them, somehow you have to work them into the tag team picture. You just have to. You have to have the focus change and whatnot. And maybe you get all of them on the same page with Cody. By the way, I hear Cody is working house shows with the OC. Interesting here. Like, really interesting here. But beyond that, too, I don't think Cody wants to be a heel. But if it is a swerve that comes, I mean, geez. But also, to your point, Jamal, you lose the big monster heel. What is to come?
Who do you replace him with as the big monster heel?
And like I don't think you truly want to build a monster heel. I think you just it just has to be somebody that just fits the shoes. Which, to your point, if Cody does what you say, there's no building. He's right there, ready, right there on the platter hot, coming out like I know people.
And honestly, I personally. My favorite version of Cody Rhodes is Cody the politician. from coming out there in a 3-piece suit, cutting a 14-minute long promo about a ham sandwich, and selling you. I mean, he could sell, he can sell pork to an Orthodox Jew, because that's what Cody Rhodes, the politician, does. And I don't know, and again, I don't watch WWE, so I don't know if they have a guy that's waiting in the wings to take that over. I don't know if Bray Wyatt's ready yet. I don't think Brock is that guy right now, nor will he really ever be again, because it's kind of, he's too cool to be booed now. Strowman ain't it. I don't know who's that guy. I don't know who they have.
Do not think they have a true heel right now.
Right. I mean, they just have a lot of guys that you either like or you don't like, but nobody that you really hate. And as far as what happens to the bloodline, I think that's a different question, because I don't think they have to, go away. I really do think that
it ain't working without Paul and Roman.
It ain't working without Paul and Roman. I think you can string that along for about a month. But I also think that if you're going to make a move with Solo Sikoa, for him to be the next man up, because the Usos are a package. But if you're going to make a move for him to be the next man up, if you're going to have him call in some other cousins, Jacob Fatu or somebody, I don't know, just get a whole island dynasty, God or whoever. I know they're Tongan, but still, the idea is, they can call in more recruits, build up the reserves. Right. It's not, what happens.
It has to be a story of Roman is disappointed. He leaves. We have to build our legacy back up. I can see something like that.
In the meantime, we do something. Yeah.
And they do that. And then Roman comes back and he goes, what the hell is this? And this is honestly, and if you guys are familiar, this is what happened when Bucky was Captain America.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it did it. He did his own thing. It wasn't, what you thought it was. And then Steve gets back there and goes, "Oh no, we gotta."
Yeah. Also,
I'm just going to take that back over now.
Yeah. Also, America wasn't really rocking with that too.
Right.
So we're going to be following this. Obviously, after this week, we'll have a lot more to talk about next week. But we still got more to talk about the Elimination Chamber. And coming back right to you, Will, we do have the Women's Elimination Chamber, which doesn't have all the dramatics to it, but it definitely has some talkable points here. So what's your thoughts? Because obviously, the winner of this does then go to face Bianca Belair.
Yes, this is for the Raw Women's title. So let's do the little breakdown here. So we got Carmella, who just recently returned. Natalia, of course, who's always around in these kind of things.
Canada.
I didn't even think of that. Yes, in Canada. So Natalia is going to have a buff +3 or something for that match since she's in Canada. Raquel Rodriguez, who they still keep trying to do something with. Nikki Cross, Liv Morgan, and Asuka, who is a very different Asuka now since she returned at Royal Rumble. The biggest thing that jumps out at me, I would say, about the Women's Chamber is since Asuka has returned, she has just been a buzzsaw again. It's like she is reinvigorated and just looking tremendous. They have her beating everybody in sight so far, which who knows? That might be a red herring. It might just be that they're doing that to make you think she's just going to cut through everyone in the chamber and take on Bianca. Personally, I would like to see that. I think her and Bianca would be a hell of a WrestleMania match, especially if you do it as Asuka's back. She's more like the old Asuka now, and she just kills everybody. That Women's Chamber could be a very damn short match and just have the story be Asuka destroys everybody. Or they may totally swerve us, and Asuka isn't going to be the one, and maybe, Liv is really popular, but I can't see Liv and Bianca being a match they would do. That seems like it would just split the crowd. Please, oh please, don't put Raquel Rodriguez anywhere near that title match. I do not want to see that. No, not right now.
Really?
Now.
They're saying she's the next one, I think she had a good
we know they like her, but since coming up to the main roster, she ain't working for me. There's something missing for her, and I don't know what it is, but she's flat. It ain't working.
Yeah, for sure. She looks the part, but the gimmick still isn't working. They're very much on the lines of like she having like such an amazing physique, and she always has to flex.
We already have Rhea Ripley doing that, and she's taking on Charlotte on the other side of the coin. And she's way hotter property right now. So
I'm pretty sure
it's too similar.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what they want. I mean, she needs to be a heel at this point. I'm not buying into her little gimmick as well, whatever the gimmick is, but she needs to be a heel. And be honest, who else? I mean, I guess Natalia's a heel, but not in her own town. But beyond that, you have Asuka, who's not a heel. So is Carmella the only heel, and Nikki the only heel in it? I don't know. I just think if Raquel is going to even be in consideration to ever win the championship, she has to be a heel. I think she'd
have to flip, and for taking on Bianca, that would make sense.
Yeah.
So, man, you're scaring me now. The way those pieces fit together.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but like honestly, like I know Booker T is really high on her. I really think that like some OG legend or Hall of Famer definitely needs to get involved with to making sure that her career doesn't get derailed by whatever this gimmick that they're trying to do isn't working and isn't really getting over. Good outing at the Rumble that adds some momentum, but it needs a little bit more pizzazz, and seeing how the stars work when you have people like Bianca and then people like Charlotte and the people like Rhea who just makes big of every moment. It's going to see what she's going to be able to do at the chamber, and I'm just not buying to what the gimmick is now. So I don't know. Anything else at the Rumble? At the Elimination Chamber. I mean, listen, the U.S. title being defended inside the chamber does literally nothing for me here.
Let's see who's in that if anything jumps out. So that's Austin Theory defending against Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, who's kind of a wild card in there, Damian Priest, and Montez Ford, which is also kind of a wild card. Hell, you want to make things interesting? Have Montez Ford with the damn U.S. title. It's out of nowhere. Why not?
Well, now that you mention, it is February, so
Cody can't win both belts. So.
Oh man, but yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting pay-per-view. I think that the interest is all about the main event, and
as it should be.
And the storyline, the coming out of it going into Raw is who's going to win. I don't think Sammy necessarily needs to win, but I think the story and turning up the heat a little bit more is what matters. And you have to get Kevin Owens will be involved. It's Canada.
Yeah, I think you called it earlier. The way they get out of not making Sammy champ in Montreal is you end the show with Kevin Owens and Sammy standing tall over the bloodline. They don't win the belts, but they reunite and you set the table for them going after the Usos.
Right. Or you literally have Roman just beating him down to a pulp. You have the Usos.
Kevin Owens saves him.
Yep. And what does the
and
Usos
then
do?
Those two have to have a hug. They gotta be united at the end of that show. That's how you make it in Montreal to send those folks home happy. I think.
Yeah,
I agree, because that's the very, very, very safe, low risk, story to go with, and that's kind of what I think is going to happen. Yeah. Which is why I would like to see, personally, I would like to see Sammy versus the Bloodline in the Elimination Chamber, and of course, there's only 4 of them, and Sammy. So who's the 6th? Cody Rhodes.
Dagger.
Right. So then you set up that moment where, Cody, you can have him do whatever.
Yeah.
You set up that moment where it's Cody, Sammy, and Roman in the ring at the same time.
There's also folks talking about like Sami Zayn being reminded of his final test, and that really hasn't come to fruition about the final test that Roman gave him. So what does that mean? And is Sammy playing like a double agent of some sort? There's been talks about that, but I don't know. We're going to get some answers come this weekend. And even on SmackDown.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, SmackDown on Friday. So it's going to be hot in Montreal, Canada. Anywho, when we come back, we're going to get to our indie spotlight. We're going to give a small tribute. We're going to give a big tribute in a small amount of time to Jerry Jarrett. And then we're going to talk a little bit about AEW and a problem that may not be actually on everybody's surface, but it's definitely there. And I think we all noticed that last night. So We'll talk about that more in a second. Let's get into our break.
If you're looking to expand your podcast reach, your website reach, as well as your social media branding, visit BigGoldBelt.com for sponsorship and advertising opportunities. Big Gold Belt Media is the golden standard for all of your media needs. We offer pre-roll and mid-roll ad spots, on-air host reads done by yours truly, Damian G, on audio as well as video platforms. For inquiries, please email biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com for more information. Again, that's biggoldbeltgroup@gmail.com for your inquiries for your business. Big Gold Belt Media, wrestling, movie, comics, and more. The golden standard.
All right. We're back here for the second half of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. As the commercial said, you got advertisement needs, give us a shout. And we will get that taken care of. And that's just not just for the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, but for all of Big Gold Belt Media, So give us a shout, hit us up on any social media or through email. All of that can be found at biggoldbelt.com. Each and every week, we love to turn our focus to the independent scene. And while we have spotlighted a lot of independent promotions all over the world, it's time to come home to the DMV. Jamal got a special 2 tonight. So, Jamal, what you got?
So we talked about it last week, and I just want to remind everybody that February 18th is WrestleMania up there in Silver Spring, Maryland. Flying V Fights presents WrestleMania. The 18th, of course, is the night of the Elimination Chamber, but show starts at 4 o'clock. So, you get your Flying V in, get home, get yourself an Elimination Chamber on. It's going to be a complete full day of wrestling on Saturday. Tickets are still available. You can get tickets at flyingv.thundertix.com. You can check them out on the Twitter, but you can definitely get tickets for Grapplemania. Front row seating is sold out, but they still have general admission tickets left. And, that's going to be a great time. And then, of course, February 19th, which is this coming Sunday, 4 p.m. at DC Brow. That's on 3178B Bladensburg Road in Northeast. That's close to the DC Maryland line out there in the northeast side of the city. But the bottom line is that Braumatica, it's a pro wrestling vibe, DC Brow Brewing Company, and it's the end of an era because it's their last show, running. It's sucks to see them go. We're glad that they were here for so long. Doors open at 3 o'clock. Show starts at 4. This coming Sunday. Front row tickets $40. You can get tickets for $30. Second and third row. Standard room only is $20. Tickets will be available at the door, but they will be limited. It's definitely going to be one for the ages, and that's Braumatica from Pro Wrestling Vibes. And you can get your tickets there at eventbrite.com or check them out on the Twitter machine, at PW Vibe. So it's 2 good shows this weekend, Flying V Fights and Pro Wrestling Vibe. Definitely get in for some live wrestling action. Elimination Chamber, of course, is this Saturday, not Sunday. It is Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern and the Bell Center in Montreal. SmackDown's tomorrow, at 8 o'clock from the Bell Center in Montreal as well. And a special reminder that if you watch Rampage, it's not on at 10 o'clock. It is actually going to be airing nationwide, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, because of All-Star game coverage. All-Star shenanigans on TNT will follow that at 8 p.m. So no Rampage at 10. Rampage is on at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, 2 o'clock out there in Hawaii. And that's the Indie Spotlight for this week.
Shout out to Hawaii.
Shout out to Hawaii. 808.
Even though I got folks out there. Quick shout out to Billy Dixon and his team with Vibe for not only bringing pro wrestling to the DMV area, but just the focus on representation. So it is completely sad to see it go, but understanding that like running independent promotion is hell of expensive, especially if you are running it in Washington DC, and then the good folks at Flying V as well, running out of Maryland, continue to bring us independent wrestling in the area, which arguably we may say before the pandemic, man, this was one of the hot areas. So I would love to see it get back to where it used to be, but it definitely takes a lot more support to keep things operating around here. That's why we want to make sure we do our part by spotlighting independent promotions all over the world, especially in our area, to get folks the attention that they need about the pro wrestling you need to see over the weekend on the independent level. But yeah, shout out to Billy Dixon and the good folks there doing what they do. My guy Will, we had a passing just yesterday of one of the most legendary, most iconic promoters of pro wrestling, and Jerry Jarrett. For you younger folks, you may not have heard of who he is. It's okay. But you may have heard that last name. Yeah, and it absolutely is of Jeff Jarrett's father, who Jeff Jarrett did show up to Dynamite because, you know, he wanted to wrestle. And I think understanding his father's legacy and touch in all of pro wrestling, you know, everyone handles grieving differently, as we've seen with Mark Briscoe being a very visible through the passing of his brother, who he's traveled around the world with forever. I think this is their way of paying tribute to these folks. And they would probably have it no other way. But just to give it to you, Will, as I frequently label you as the wrestling historian here, just a few words about Jerry, his legacy, and obviously your exposure.
Yeah, geez. I mean, you nailed it when we're talking about Hall of Fame legendary person in the wrestling business. Jerry Jarrett did it all. I mean, he was a wrestler, but more so he's known as a promoter. Him and Jerry Lawler were behind the Memphis promotion that was at one time the most successful like wrestling television show in the country. They owned Saturday mornings in Memphis. Monster numbers there throughout the 80s and the 70s before Vince's national expansion. And hell, once Vince did expand and the WWF took over, they were pretty much the last little territory region standing once they slowly started dying off. They had live TV for 90 minutes every Saturday morning on the NBC affiliate. Live specifically is the key word here. When you talk about the format of live wrestling television, Memphis Wrestling and Jerry Jarrett is where that was created. They created the format of the idea of interviews and matches and crazy stuff going on. In a lot of ways, kind of a precursor to ECW, because Memphis was very heavy on brawling and shenanigans and crazy stuff. And they did it all. They did it all. But I think his biggest legacy really is the format of wrestling television as we know it. And every damn Memphis thing I can think of. I mean, he has his fingerprints are all over it. He was the booker. Lawler also booked there too. Bill Dundee did, but Jerry Jarrett was like the constant. Other guys would come and go, but he was always there. He was like the foundation of Memphis wrestling. So what I could even tell you, I don't know. It's all on YouTube. Vince doesn't own that stuff because that is public domain footage. So there's tons of Memphis footage out there on YouTube that you could look up of just tons of crazy wrestling action. But as far as 80s territorial wrestling goes, Memphis is some of my favorite stuff there is. And Jerry Jarrett's the reason that stuff exists. So safe home, Jerry Jarrett. I don't even really know what to say because anything I would say, it would not be doing him justice as far as the mark he left on the business, as far as like how television is made for pro wrestling.
Listen, some of your biggest and most favorite wrestlers are who they are because of them coming through. Should I just say Jerry's role at this point, right?
More or less. Hey, he even got shouted out by The Rock yesterday. So, I mean, there you go. Even where The Rock got to start.
Yeah, a little bit of research here, and you'll just be surprised of just how you can almost say one's career wouldn't be what they were if it wasn't for the opportunities that Jerry gave them. And a lot of people weren't shy to show that, as you mentioned, The Rock, who he didn't get his career started from there, but I would imagine that through his family, for sure, there's some involvement. I'm not sure of The Rock being there, but almost anybody else. I mean, even Hogan, talking about Hogan coming there, talk about the Mouth of the South coming through there. You mentioned Jerry the King, which could you imagine what type of week we would have had this week if Jerry didn't pull through?
Oh, geez. The end of Memphis wrestling right there.
Right there. So But yeah, and Jerry, and as I mentioned, Jerry, yeah, at the time, Jerry, one of the biggest faces, one of the biggest heels from the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Local celebrities in that part. For sure.
Godspeed. So listen, this is a conversation. We encourage you all to take a part of this, but like I'm just gonna call it what it is. It seems to me that, and this is not truly a knock on just AEW as a whole, but and maybe it is because when you look at WWE, you can very vividly see the true stars of it. I kind of look at AEW and you kind of just think like, who is truly that top person, that face? Tons of talent. Not even a question. We're not debating that here. But who is that numero uno? Who's at the top of the totem pole? We've talked a lot in the past weeks about it being and needing to be MJF. I don't think we're all going to sit here and say that is a thing. But when you start to look around, who is that person? Then there's rumors swirling around that a potential return may be happening here in a CM Punk, which brings about even more questions here. But we cannot deny that CM Punk absolutely moves the needle for AEW before the drama was there. And even after the drama, because everyone wanted to know what was next after that. So let's start with the first question here, and I'll give it right back to you all to elaborate. But do you see a true hole or an open availability for their number one star? Do you see, when you say AEW, who's the number one undefinitive face of the company right now? Indefinitive.
God, that is tough because my initial reaction is to say, well, I guess it's MJF, but I would only be saying that because he's the champ. And much like happened with Hangman, AEW has had a problem of they will finally give someone the belt, and then once they're in that position, they just kind of fizzle out. And that's what I think has happened with MJF too. It happened with Hangman, and it's happened again now. And so just because you're the champ there, it doesn't seem to make you the top guy. But by that same token, anyone else who had mentioned, a Moxley, hell, even a Jericho, it's like it's people that have already been there forever. So I think they have a lot of guys at a top level, but there is not that clear cut, this is the guy above everybody else. And that's a problem.
When Jericho was the champ, it was without a doubt he was the star that transcended right out of that company. It was absolutely the right marketing tool. But yeah, I'll give it to Jamal. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
Okay, so here's the problem that I have. You have a company with an identity crisis, and yeah, that's an understatement because you have guys that are already established. You can't really do too much to tarnish their careers, and the worst they could do is just retire. And then you have new guys that aren't in a position to make that claim yet because they haven't really been established anywhere else but AEW, and we're still in the learning process. They're still in the growing process. We're still in the process of getting fans acclimated for them to be being the star. And Khan is going to have to either shit or get off the pot. Either you're going to go, mid 2000s TNA and get a bunch of big names with an established audience and build your company around that, or you're actually going to build from the ground up, establish new stars, make new stars, and keep that door open, that surprise door open to bring in other stars from the independents, from Japan, from wherever, from the moon, to come in for a big deal, to make it a bit special. It's not saying that you can't do both, but it's very hard to do both when everything's exciting. Oh my God, these Japanese guys came in. I don't care. I don't watch that. So but you don't have enough time to establish why I need to care about them. Use the internet telling me that a match is a big deal will never impress me because I'm the only one. I am the only one that gets to decide what a big deal is to me. But I don't want to watch the same old anyway, because I already had 30 years of watching Jericho, or 10 years of watching Bryan, or 15 years of avoiding Moxley. So I don't want to watch the same thing in a new package. So which is it, Con? Which one are you giving us? Because either you're going to give us an old recipe in a new box, or you're going to give us new food in an old box. Because he's not the booker that he thinks he is. Let's just be clear. But he also has to understand that long-term thinking. What is AEW going to look like in 3, 4, 5 years? What's AEW going to look like after that first, second round of contracts expire? They got the initial guys in there, and then they went in like 2020, 2021-ish, signing a bunch of guys also. And their contracts, if they sign 3-year deals, are going to be up next year. So what is that second class of AEW signees going to look like when those contracts expire over the next 2 years? So for me, 2025 is a big year for AEW, because that's the year, hopefully, we turn things over and get the old guard out and get the new guard in. And personally, with my old Yeller Blandis shotgun, I would take everybody over 37 out back and put 6 ounces of buckshot in the back of their heads. They got to go. You have to start building new. You have to start looking to the future, as with any sports team does.
So, yeah, I mean, I that's been the message here on the show for a couple of weeks here. And even if you did allow, the veterans or the folks who've already have established platforms and names and brands and whatnot, it's still no definitive person who's that top guy. And I think that does have a lot to do with the presentation and the building of folks. I mean, the closest name I could think of is Moxley, but even Moxley, I don't feel even wants to be that top, much like Bryan. I think he's avoiding trying to be the top guy because he doesn't feel like he needs to. He truly just wants to wrestle. And I think that's
Bryan doesn't care.
Yeah. And I'm sure as much as we're about to talk about CM Punk, I'm sure there's probably been a couple of knocks at Bryan's door asking, would you like to do this? Could we do that? And like,
I'm going to sum those two up for you right quick that you just nailed. Bryan just wants to wrestle and Mox just wants to bleed. That's it. I mean, that's every match they have. It's like that. That's what they're into. And beyond that, I think that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then, because I think the idea of the argument of the necessity of there being a top guy is a bit antiquated. I think this is an ensemble cast, and in an ensemble, it's bigger than one person. It should be bigger than one person. Okay. So with that said, I think that Khan needs to shift his perspective as well. He can't book it like it's the current Lakers. He needs to book it like it's the 05 Spurs. He needs to get an entire team together where all of these different hands kind of feed into the same collective goal. Do you want a more WWE-like method of storytelling with long form promo and these build-ups? Well, he doesn't do that because it's a month before the 3 weeks before the pay-per-view, and we only have one confirmed match. So he's going to throw everything together within the last 2 weeks. Yeah. So, but then again, the next pay-per-view is 4 months after that. Yeah. So, it's kind of it goes back to the initial identity crisis. I don't think that there needs to be one guy. I think that there are many different divisions within the company, and there needs to be, like a football team, there are 3 captains. We need to know who they are.
I think there's a little bit of bias in what you're saying to what you like, but I also think there's a lot of truth.
Oh no, ain't no bias, because if it were me, I would book it like I would book it totally differently. Where it was wrestling.
No, I'm talking about. Well, no, I'm saying by what you're describing, because honestly, what you're hearing is, to me, and I don't have a problem with this at all, but it's what ROH has always been. It's truly about them. ROH is, every time you look at an iteration of ROH, you see multiple stars, multiple times, and you see everybody arise to their occasion, because they did book almost like a league. And the Spurs, as you mentioned, people called them boring, But look at how many Hall of Famers comes out of that team now, because they went out there and they played the ball. Hell, their whole starting five, I believe, are Hall of Famers, if I'm not mistaken. For that championship year.
Yeah,
so
all of them.
Yeah,
because we just went in.
Yeah, and again, I think that, like, when you talk about the identity crisis, I think it is a lot of stop trying to keep up with the Jones. Or do you want to be a wrestling company, or do you want to be an entertainment company? Or you're trading this middle. Okay, well, that's kind of not working for what you're doing. And then again, it is like the whole collective of like, whoever's available, I'm just snatching up. It's not even truly if they fit the AEW mode. It's just if you're hot, then we're bringing you in. Or if there's some buzz behind you, then bring you in. Or, well, if there's interest in you somewhere else, then we're going to make sure we bring you in. And that's why, like, collectively, it feels in his book like a very, very what's the word? A very not lucrative, but a profitable independent show where a lot of money is being backed behind it, and you just never know who you're going to get each and every week. I mean, you talk about the best, it's probably the best tenure in independent wrestling was not GCW, but Evolve, where there wasn't no storylines. Just every Evolve number, it's going to have some good matches, and it was worth going to see because you had big name versus big name, but no storyline behind. Not like Chikar, who has storylines, and character building and whatnot. And obviously it's a different story about Chikar and isn't around. But I just think that, like, AW just comes around as this a very, very big production independent show with just the big names, the popular names, and you throwing them together. You got a TV deal, and it's just from week to week, no continuity. But I will also go back to something I said a couple of weeks ago. Their star is definitely Jade Cargill, and that right now it still doesn't. Right now, at this moment, doesn't even feel like that, and that's why I was like a problem. But going to the second half of this is that the rumor is that CM Punk is supposedly going to return. Just a lot of like bad tidbits attached to his name. So Will, starting off with you. With everything that's being said, do they need this guy? Do they need CM Punk to return? Because as I said earlier, he does move the needle, and love him to hate him, but he will be talked about if he returns.
That's the thing. In the last year, when they've had the most buzz, it's involved him.
Yeah.
I mean, and Lord knows him showing up. I'm no fan of the guy, but hell, it would get everyone's attention because first damn question would be, oh my God, what's going on? What about him and the Elite? What's going to happen there? How that would obviously be what they'd have to do is immediately lean in to the whole backstage brawl. That would have to be what you do. If you bring him back, you have to go there. You can't go anywhere else. It has to be, that becomes his return. That is a feud right there. That's the only thing the people who are into him would want to get into. Everything there I think the biggest issue there right now is everything just feels very flat since the beginning of the year. There's MJF's the chant. Yeah, it's just since that brawl, it's like they tried to find their way out of it. They made MJF champ, and now it's kind of like, okay, we're gonna do you and Brian. It's gonna be an hour match, and it's like, I don't want to see MJF for an hour. I don't care who he's against. I don't want to see a damn hour-long match, especially when there's supposed to be like a blood feud over William Regal getting sent out of there. It's like, that's not how you do a revenge match as an Iron Man match. It's like, it's a lot of weird choices being made there. But Punk would obviously draw attention, but the elephant in the room would be those guys that he was backstage with and getting them on board with it. And hell, here's the big question. Are things... I guess, is there enough of a need for him for Tony to be like to those guys, look, he's coming back.
Yeah.
Y'all need to deal with it.
Well, apparently that's the whole posture right now with Thunder Rosa that I just looked online too, that she's coming back. Y'all just need to deal with it.
Supposedly had to make an apology. Supposedly she had to meet with the locker room and make an apology for prior behavior. Now, one thing I know about Phil Brooks is that dude is stubborn as hell. Yeah. I can't imagine a scenario where he apologizes, especially
what does he have to apologize for? He's the victim.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother.
Jamal. Oh, come on now.
In his mind, I'm sure he has nothing to apologize for.
Listen,
he absolutely.
And we know And he has FU money to back it up.
Listen,
hell, he made plenty of money in legal suits, so it's not like he's hurting for cash.
Listen, if we had more time,
to be stubborn.
And Coca Cabana still owes him $12. So
I Jamal, to your point, like if we had more time, but man, I really do not understand how that is not how people see it. I don't understand. I don't understand how someone gets jumped and everyone says, well, he's an asshole, so it should have happened.
He said he opened his mouth first, so
yeah,
that's the problem.
But
he opened his mouth at the press conference.
I will make one small comparison here because it's actually happening right now in the UFC, who's also lacking in star power. That it was announced that Conor McGregor will be returning for the Ultimate Fighter coach as one of the coaches against across from Michael Chandler, and this is like. Well, we know what type of problems Conor bring, and there's really no good fight for Conor, but he's such a star. And obviously, there's a lot of things attached to his name. If you Google him, all sorts of different things kind of happening. But what's one person that can mitigate a lot of issues right now? The Dana White issues, the PR issues, the whatever that slap boxing league that Dana White has that's failing miserably, that comes on right after Dynamite. And the lack of star power, the lack of the big fight feels that people want. Well, why not bring in Conor McGregor? This solves everything. Take the risk on a guy that got a lawsuit attached to him for this and that, and he's accused of this and that. Why not? Because, well, it brings rating, it brings money, and it will get people talking. I think that's the same exact issue with CM Punk. He will bring money. He will bring publicity. Yes, he will bring issues. But at the end of the day, folks are going to watch, and I would imagine that the numbers folks are going to have a hell of a time when this happens, because it ain't if, it's when.
Okay, so AEW had their worst rating in the last 52 weeks of ratings being recorded. They haven't done this bad at 822,000 since maybe a few weeks ago when they were like 860 something, and like last January when they were at 830 something. And you can argue that other than Punk's initial return, things kind of smooth out anyway after that, and they are still within their average on the lower side this week, but definitely well within their average between 800,000 and 1 million people watching the show. Again, the problem still is with Punk or Max Friedman or whoever. It's a wrestling show. It's about competition. It's about championships. It's about winning. Who in AEW wants to be champion?
Gimmick or like real life?
No, I mean, I don't know them backstage. So, but when I watch on TV, I don't see anybody that wants to be a champion, that is making moves to be a champion. Now they've quietly done away with the ranking system, and which is fine. But I don't see anybody going, fuck that. I'm jumping to the front of the line because I want to be champion. I deserve a shot because of whatever, these things that I've done. And I'm not saying that I couldn't make a case for somebody to do that. But what I am saying is I don't feel the reason why their champions feel stagnant is because people are just okay with them winning. Like, okay, well, hey, MJ, I was at Full Gear. And it was, okay, well, MJF's going to win. He'll be champion for a year. Wake me up in 2023.
Yeah.
Because people kind of expect that.
Control.
People expect that booking. People expect that thing. And even when we talked earlier about the WWE thing, I went way left field because it's hard to surprise the marks now because everybody thinks they know everything. And unfortunately, they're right more than they're wrong because of the fact that the booking has become so predictable. They're making the safe bet instead of taking a little bit of a risk here and a little bit of a risk there. We're still talking about Punk coming back. Do they need him? Of course they don't need him. We are, because we just talked about how they have a talent full of rosters that should be chomping at the bit to move up a level.
Yeah, they shouldn't need him, but here we are.
When everyone got suspended, when everyone got kicked off the show for that 2 months, the ratings didn't go in a crater when everyone was gone.
When
so
Friedman came back, the ratings didn't tank.
Yeah, we know they can handle not having these people around, but it's just there needs to be a spark. There needs to be some sizzle, something extra. And
everyone's want to be champion.
And it doesn't need to be a new signing.
Yeah. Something needs to be done to shake up the formula there. Because I think the biggest thing to me is like everyone feels like they're neatly slotted in their space.
Yeah.
And they have their space, they have their lane, and everyone's content to be in that spot. There's no one out there like shaking up the entire formula and being like, adding a sizzle to anything.
Yeah, listen, I want to quickly say, you think about, let's just say Mark Briscoe, who officially is signed with AEW, and you automatically say, well, good for him. But now what? Oh, just another name on the roster? Is this literally a limitless possibility here? Or, as you mentioned, Will, safely slotted. We'll keep him right there at bay. To Keshner, I think, we talked a lot about somebody who just had a crazy year. When you talk about the signing happening, it's like, well, shoot, can't think of a better independent wrestler outside of maybe Speedball Bailey, who just really made the best of their 2022. Getting a signing absolutely seems like you put in the hard work, you're rewarded with this. Do you see him at the top of the totem pole? Do you see the investment or the machine or the rocket ship attached to him? Maybe not. Maybe less than maybe not. But somebody, as you said, I would like, maybe it's Adam Cole. Maybe Adam Cole speaks to this, but will it happen? I don't know. But I would like to see more like Adam Cole, more folks that want to make it very clear that they're a top person, they're a big star, and they're going to be at the top of this.
How hot? Like, go back 4 months, just 4 months. Go back to the fall. Remember when Wardlow was just like the hottest damn up and coming guy there and just tearing through everybody, and they made him TNT champ, and then it's just like the bottom just fell out, and it's like all the momentum gone.
Well, there's a lot of that. I think he was injured though.
Yeah, but that happens. Yeah. That's happened though many a time though. We're like,
no, they can't book champions. I'm not saying that at all, but also the injury bug is still into effect. And never forget that Scorpio Sky signed a 5-year extension. Never forget that.
As we're coming up on our time, I mean, that's always been the issue with Punk. As hot as Punk's ever gotten, anytime they ever make him champ, he breaks. He's an old guy with a lot of miles on him. It is what it is. But people keeping their momentum there is just seems to be a hard thing to do for whatever reason.
I think it is one of those like, man, we want to give everybody a chance here. This is an equal opportunity employment in here. So, we're happy for you to be here. We're going to make sure you get a push. Make sure you got to push. And then
catering is fantastic, though.
Gotta be.
In 3 months, it's someone else's turn.
Gotta be. And ultimately, to say all this, all I want to do is it would just nice to just be able to look at AEW regularly and full of identity. It's great wrestling, great talent, great moments. And definitely the fans are happy tuning in each week or being there each week. But I think a little bit of a continuity issue or identity crisis is definitely a problem. And at the end of the day, this is all entertainment. Yes, it's sport, but it's entertainment. And it's for us who watch a wide range of media, whether it's music, video games, movies, and now sport. It's easy for us to come in here and be able to say like, yeah, that's not kind of meshing the same, and be able to give I think a fair criticism to what we see, because God knows if you say anything to the dislike of wrestling, that comes with a lot of swinging out of a crowd apparently, but it is what it is. Gentlemen, as we are up on our time tonight, anything else y'all want to get in here?
I just want to say, I don't know where he's been, but please, QT, come back. We need you. Save us, QT. Save us all.
Oh boy, wouldn't that make you happy? Well,
it would. What do you mean he wouldn't? Yeah, of course it would.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Should we start covering PSL? Y'all down for that?
What's that?
Well, clearly you cut Dynamite off right afterwards.
We are not going to start covering the Dana White CTE championships.
Oh, the slapboxing thing. No, I watched the Polish version. It's much better.
Oh man.
And Stone Hands. Stone Hands is absolutely fantastic. This American version sucks.
Well, we are out tonight. as y'all know what it is, each and every week we're live here at the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast on all our video streaming platforms, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then you can catch us for the replay podcast on all audio podcast platforms. Oh, I gotta throw this comment in real quick. Y'all don't listen. If y'all just take 1 second to see who this is, I got to shout out to the Queen Lakrita coming through, showing love, killing it right now on the revival of Night Court. So just in case you don't know, go check that out. A show that was one of the top rated shows for many years, now returning back as we have one of the stars coming through and on the stream. Appreciate you so much tuning in. Oh, well, thank you very much, Queen. But folks, yep, that would do it for us tonight. We're back next week. We'll have more wrestling to talk about. Clearly, we gotta have to talk about what happened at the Elimination Chamber and whatnot, and who's going to step up in AEW, because who wants to be the champion? Who wants to be the face of that company? We would love to see it. But anywho, until then, that's folks, y'all be safe, and we'll see you back then.